We are in a very serious stage right now in the debt ceiling negotiations. With the news today, GOP negotiators are pausing talks with the Biden administration, claiming the talks are not productive. Let's bring in Chuck Todd, NBC News political director and moderator of Meet the Press. Chuck, this Sunday you'll be speaking with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who warns of repercussions even beyond the financial system if the situation isn't resolved. So when you look at where the two sides are right now, despite all of this public posturing, how does this get done in time?
Right. Look, Congress sadly is very experienced at getting stuff done quickly just before a deadline approaches, as we all sadly have come to expect from the way Congress now acts these days and the way Washington in general deals with crises. But the reason I'm sort of cautiously optimistic that we're going to avoid this default is the right people are getting upset about where negotiations are going, right? You have Kevin McCarthy, his Freedom Caucus is suddenly like, oh, you should stop negotiating. Well, so he hit the pause button to placate them. They got all up mad. 1 hour after McCarthy himself said it looks like he sees a path to a compromise here. Joe Biden suddenly has progressive senators going, use the 14th Amendment, stop negotiating. AOC and other progressives in the House are upset about what he's doing. So the point is this: the only way a deal was going to get done is if you had you made the wings upset and had an uncomfortable coalition of the willing, if you will. So the fact that I think those developments have happened, we got, June 1st isn't Monday. We got another week here. I think a lot of this is theater still in order to placate certain constituency groups.
All right, so let's talk about the race to the White House. As more Republicans prepare to enter the 2024 presidential race, there are still some in the party trying to recruit Georgia Governor Brian Kemp for that role. The governor is making a trip to Israel, and it's clear he's increasing his national profile. In fact, Chuck, there was a recent retreat here in Georgia where top donors suggested that Governor Kemp isn't closing the door completely on making a run.
Well, look, I think this is a direct reflection of a growing questions around Ron DeSantis. I think, in January of this calendar year, I think most people in the Republican Party establishment, in the elite circles, however you want to, all accepted the premise that DeSantis has sort of earned the first right to take on Trump, to make his case that he's the guy. That's why you had people like Governor Kemp, even though he had a successful 2022, I think a lot, Glenn Youngkin, they all sort of stepped aside. DeSantis has sort of earned this right. But as Trump has sort of beaten him up, and, I think we've watched, a lot of people are wondering, maybe he can't take a punch. Maybe there's not a lot of there on the personality front, right? So I think you've got a Governor Kemp. I think Governor Youngkin is suddenly doing the same thing in Virginia, who both think, hey, if this summer doesn't go well for DeSantis, we're in the bullpen. We're warming up. Now, I kind of think Tim Scott, who's already in this race, is probably going to, if indeed that scenario plays out, he may suck up that oxygen, and there may not be a room for a Kemp or a Youngkin by the fall. But I think that's what some of the allies of Governor Kemp are whispering to me, is basically like, look, if DeSantis falters, we want to see Governor Kemp as sort of the first guy out of the bullpen.
You mentioned former President Donald Trump. We know he is still leading in all of the 2024 GOP polls, and he'll be here in Georgia next month for an appearance at the state party convention. We also see the news today that the Fulton County District Attorney is hinting at a possible indictment decision in August. So, Chuck, the summer of 2023 in Georgia could be very interesting as maybe a pregame show for the campaign of 2024.
I have to tell you, any normal person that's under potential investigation by a Fulton County prosecutor, I don't know if I'd be showing up in Georgia at a political rally at the state party with other people who might be under investigation for what's happening there. This is a strange decision here. I imagine if for the Republicans that are not in the Trump wing of the party, that's an appearance they're not looking forward to. I mean, this could really divide. I mean, we've seen what happens when Georgia Republicans are divided in that world, and it's not good for the party there. So I don't think this is a great moment for Georgia Republicans in their hopes of holding the state in 24 and things like that, having Donald Trump there just before we expect some sort of prosecutorial decision here. I imagine that's an odd decision, but the former president's never been afraid to put his hand on a hot stove.
Certainly a lot to watch. Meet the Press airs Sunday at 10 a.m. on 11 Alive. Chuck, thank you.
You got it.